Start off with prayer and followed by our reading Ecclesiastes chapter 2. So we'll all bow our heads. Loving Father, we do humbly come before you once again to learn about your plan and purpose with this earth, to consider those things in the scriptures set before us in the Ecclesiastes, to be inspired about that wisdom. We do ask for understanding. We do pray that you would help us all here and bless what we're about to do. And so we'll leave this session in your hands to enter our hearts, to inspire us, and to give us some encouragement for this time to come at this camp. And so we'll ask this prayer now through your Son's name, even the Lord Jesus Christ. Amen. So our reading today will be Ecclesiastes chapter 2. And I do believe we have a reader. Fantastic. Just click on.
All right, reading with you all from the King James Ecclesiastes 2. I said in mine heart, go to now, I will prove thee with mirth. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity. I said of laughter, it is mad, and of mirth, what doeth it? I sought in mine heart to give myself unto wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, and to lay hold on folly, till I might see what was that good for the sons of men, which they sought to do under the heaven all the days of their life. I made me great works, I builded me houses, I planted me vineyards, I made me gardens and orchards, and I planted trees on them, all kinds of fruits. I made me pools of water, to water therewith the wood that bringeth forth trees. I got me servants and maidens, and had servants born in my house. Also I had great possessions of great and small cattle, above all that were in Jerusalem before me. I gathered me also silver and gold, and the peculiar treasure of kings and of the provinces. I get me men singers and women singers, and the delights of the sons of men, as musical instruments, and that of all sorts. So I was great, and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also, my wisdom remained with me, and whatsoever mine eyes desired, I kept not from them. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labour. And this was my portion of all my labour. Then I looked on all the works that my hands had wrought, and on the labour that I had laboured to do. And behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. And I turned myself to behold wisdom, and madness, and folly. For what can the man do that cometh after the king? Even that which hath been already done. Then I saw that wisdom excelleth folly, as far as light excelleth darkness. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walketh in darkness. And I myself perceiveth also that one event happened to them all. Then said I in my heart, as it happeneth to a fool, so it happeneth even to me. And why was I then more wise? Then I said in my heart, that this also is vanity. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever, seeing that which now was in the days to come shall be forgotten. And how dieth the wise man? As the fool. Therefore I hated life, because the work that is wrought under the sun is grievous unto me. For all is vanity and vexation of spirit. Yea, I hated all my labour which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall be after me. And who knoweth whether he shall be a wise man or a fool? Yet shall he have rule over all my labour, wherein I have laboured, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This is also vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair for all the labour which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labour is in wisdom, and in knowledge, and in equity. Yet to a man he hath not laboured therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is vanity, and a great evil. For that hath man of all his labour, and of the vexation of his heart, wherein he hath laboured under the sun. For all his days are sorrows, and his travail grief. Yea, his heart taketh not rest in the night. This is also vanity. There is nothing better for a man than that he should eat and drink, and that he should make his soul enjoy good in his labour. This also I saw, that it was from the hand of God. For who can eat, or who else can hasten hereunto more than I? For God giveth to a man that is good, in his sight wisdom, and knowledge, and joy. But not to the sinner he giveth travail, to gather and to heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This also is vanity and vexation of spirit.
So we'll now invite our brother for the second title of the study, Fool's Gold.
Thank you, and good morning to the people who weren't. There's a handful that weren't here in the first session, so welcome along. 30-second recap of session one. We pretty much looked to establish that we're here to study Ecclesiastes. Ecclesiastes was written by King Solomon, and King Solomon very likely wrote it towards the end of his life in quite a different frame of mind to when he wrote Proverbs, where he was in a more kind of constructive, positive frame of mind. Less so Ecclesiastes. He's not super happy when he comes to this book because he is probably reflecting on a wasted life where he had turned horribly to sin. So different flavour, different style, because very, very different context to Proverbs, but equally full of wisdom that we can apply. So that's what we're going to do. We didn't really, the last session was background. We didn't do sort of chapter 1, 2, anything, which is what we are going to come to do now. We will start in chapters 1 and 2 and work our way through the book over the weekend as we progress. Now, I would say chapters 1 and 2 are where he starts to lay out what I would call his sort of happiness theories, or things he tested that he felt would make him satisfied, that would provide fulfillment in life, but which made plenty of sense, and they must have, because he was an extremely smart, wise individual. So he thought he would test these things out. And yet, of course, we know how the story ends. It ended really badly for Solomon. He made a mess of his life because he went down all these rabbit holes that did not actually deliver the satisfaction that he thought they may, in theory, deliver. They are theories that are very relatable. They are very real world things that are dangled, carrots that are dangled. They were clearly dangled a couple of thousand years ago, 2,000-3,000 years ago, and they're still being dangled today, and they make sense, but they do not work. Okay, they do not work. These things do not make us happy. But he is going to take us through kind of an experiment that covers all that. I've broken it into 3 parcels, but it's really one integrated experiment. But we'll sort of, just to digest it, we'll break it into these 3 sort of happiness theories, as I call them, go through, and then he's going to tell us essentially why they do not work, even though in theory they should. They do make sense. So that is the overview of what we're looking to do today. In 3 parts. Now, I'm not up here to denigrate Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, right? So Elon Musk is he's a few things, isn't he? Head of DOGE, Department of Government Efficiency, is that right? That's his latest role, bit interesting. But more known for his role as the CEO of Tesla, SpaceX, wealthiest man in the world, depending on the Tesla stock price. I don't know if it's true today, it fluctuates so much given what Trump's doing with tariffs, but he's pretty wealthy. I want to look at him more from the perspective, not because he is at times the wealthiest man in the world, he tends to swap with Bezos depending on the Amazon and the Tesla stock prices, but I want to look at him more as an exemplar of somebody who has set out to change the world, okay? And why that, although that seems noble and makes sense, why it doesn't entirely work. Then we're going to look at the theme of sort of, that's happiness through newness, if you like. Then we're going to secondly look at the theory of what I'd call happiness through wisdom or knowledge. If I max out on knowledge and wisdom and even spiritually, wisdom, there's nothing wrong with that. If I max out on that, I'll definitely find satisfaction in this life. He says, not really. And then the third theory is more the theory of happiness through success, I suppose. So I'm using Jeff Bezos as an example of that because he's same ballpark as Elon Musk and perhaps less renowned for his role as a great change agent and his desire to be a great change agent in the world. So Musk wants to colonise Mars. Obviously he's doing his thing with EV and carbon pollution, depending on your views on that. Bezos is just rich and successful, and he's got all the trappings of someone like that, which Elon does as well. So yeah, not here to denigrate them, just here to use them as examples of people in the same ballpark as Solomon, ultra wealthy, ultra successful. These people exist through all generations. They exist today, okay? So they are relatable. So they are the 3 theories we're going to look at. They are the 3 that I think Solomon steps us through. And yes, they make sense, but they kind of don't. So, theory number 1. If I set about, through whatever means, but maybe through the accumulation of wisdom, which is sort of the second theory, but if I set about to drive epic change in this world, I'm talking constructive change, by the way. I'm not talking destructive change, like maybe invading the Ukraine or something like that. I'm talking constructive change. Is the aspiration to colonise Mars, you might think it's a bit crazy, but is his intent sound? It probably is, right? He's trying to deal with overpopulation. I don't know if it's feasible, but the intent isn't too bad. So his belief is roughly that if he does that, and if there were more people like Elon who were doing that, then the world would be a much better place. And in theory, how do you disagree with that, right? Okay. But Solomon says, I hear you, but it won't make you happy. I guarantee it won't make you happy, because he tried to do the exact same thing, and he was very, very good at it. He executed extraordinary change in the world he lived in. So, why does it not work? So he's going to take us through these sort of natural analogies. You come to Ecclesiastes 1, we'll just backtrack a little from our reading, and he's going to take us through these issues where he stood back and he observed the major issues in life, some of the major features of life under the sun, which is his tagline for this world, this life. And he's going to show that, unfortunately, no matter how epic a change agent you may be, Elon, Solomon, whoever, Tim, you, whatever, the world at a fundamental level is stuck on repeat. Okay, the world is stuck on repeat. So how does he demonstrate that? At a fundamental level. That's the key. So let us read Ecclesiastes 1 verse 4. One generation passes away. So this is the cycle of human life. Another generation comes, but the earth abides forever. So people come, they go, they die, and the earth just sits there as if nothing happened. They're constant. The sun arises, goes down, goes to his place where he arose. That's the cycle of the sunset, sunrise, round and round and round and round. Doesn't change, no matter what Elon does, that will not change. The wind goes towards the south, turns around towards the north. It whirls about continually, and the wind returns again according to his circuits. Okay, so there's this predictive pattern of wind cycles. The rivers, this is the water cycle, okay, the evaporation and so forth. Kids learn about it in science. The rivers run into the sea, yet the sea is not full. Under the place from whence the rivers come, thither they return again. The world is stuck on repeat. He sums it up. Verse 9, the thing which has been is that which shall be. Yep, the future thing, it's actually already happened in some form. That which is done is that which shall be done. There is no new thing under the sun. That is probably the key phrase. Is there anything whereof it may be said, see, this is new. It has already been of old time, which was before us. So he basically says the world is stuck on repeat. And as he moves into his piece around wisdom a little more, happiness through wisdom, the themes intertwine, don't they? 2 verse 12. I turned myself to behold wisdom and madness and folly. For what can man do that comes after the king? Even that which has been already done. What was Rehoboam, his son, going to do that Solomon hadn't pulled off? Nothing. Solomon was incompetent compared to his father. So particularly highlights the problem. But it wouldn't matter. Like at a fundamental level, nothing massive will change regardless of the leadership in the world. So that's his second point. And then chapter 3, verse 15. So this is now where he gets into dealing with the problems of time and concepts of time. Same theme though, same little thread. 3:15, that which has been is now. That which is to be has already been. God requires that which is past. So he said, the world is stuck on repeat. This is why it's kind of frustrating if you set out to completely save the world. Not that there's anything wrong with that on one level, but do not expect it to deeply satisfy you. It will not work. He then points out that this spirit of trying to do that comes at a bit of a cost. It came at a very heavy cost for him. He was quite negligent of his family, and we see how Rehoboam turned out, for example. So it's a lot of work, basically, trying to change the world, is what he says. Chapter 1, verse 3. What profit has a man of all his labour which he takes under the sun? Carry that through to verse 8. Right smack bang in the middle of this exposition of nothing really changes. All things that are full of labour, man cannot utter it. The eye is not satisfied with seeing, nor the ear filled with hearing. So people have insatiable appetites, and for all the change you may deliver to them, constructive change, they're never really going to be totally happy with it. Change for change's sake doesn't actually fundamentally satisfy people. So he said, I put all this effort in. I mean, think of the things he did. He built this colossal palace, right? Gardens and all these fortifications and buildings, and his construction juggernaut just kept fanning out as he just transformed the whole country of Israel. He said people didn't really appreciate it at the end. He was very disappointed. He was left very disappointed about the whole thing. And then in the context, again, of the piece around wisdom, which he comes to in a second, the thread continues. 2 verse 23, what has man of all his labour and vexation of his heart, wherein he has laboured under the sun? For all his days are sorrows and his travail grief, yea, his heart takes not rest in the night. So this is the issue of kind of workaholism, which we'll see he goes into a bit more in chapter 4. So I just questioned in the end whether it was really worth it. I had to work so hard. I achieved so much. In the end, people weren't even that grateful. This was Solomon's life. And it left him feeling very empty and sad. Vanity of vanities, hence the phrase. He then goes even further and he says, and in the future, people aren't going to care. So let's pretend Elon Musk does colonise Mars. He does de-risk population constraints on the Earth, which is a concern. Let's say he does that, yeah? Well, you know what? Generation or two down the track, nobody's going to care. They will take it for granted. They'll be living on Mars, and there'll be a plaque to Elon Musk and a statue, and whatever. Who cares, right? Life goes on. People don't give perhaps due credit for people who do these things. So you come to chapter 1 verse 1 verse 11, and you get this idea. There is no remembrance of former things, neither shall there be any remembrance of things which are to come with those that shall come thereafter. Chapter 2, verse 16, again, more in the context of the wisdom piece, but it's all one package. For God gives to man that is good in his sight wisdom and knowledge and joy, but to the sinner he gives travail and to gather and heap up, that he may give to him that is good before God. This is vanity and vexation. So basically, that was the wrong verse, 2:16. For there is no remembrance of the wise more than of the fool forever, right? So nobody really cares, okay? Maybe they should care, but people don't care, okay? So don't go around, burning your whole life, all your energy to set the world on fire if you think everyone's going to think you're a hero in 100 years, because no one will care about you in 100 years. That's reality, says Solomon. That's just the truth. Okay. Now, when you look at that, you may say, I don't agree, because change does occur in this world, right? So I'm saying it doesn't occur at a fundamental level, but you might say, well, yeah, it does. So let's take an example. There's hundreds of examples. So smartphone is a good, I think, example. So how is a smartphone not fundamental change? How is that not, how can Solomon say nothing really? Sun goes up, sun goes down, nothing really changes. Well, smartphones are that's changed a fair bit, hasn't it? Is he wrong? And the way you can get through all those examples you can bring up like that is you just got to look at the outcome, not worry about how it does it. What is the outcome? What is the fundamental outcome of a smartphone? An iPhone, what's the latest? 17? Is that the latest iPhone? 16. I've got a 17, Dan. Yeah. Never say things like that to an IT guy because he will know I'm bluffing. So, yeah, iPhone 16, sorry. iPhone 516, it's not going to make any difference, right? Because it's just a communication device, right? Adam and Eve could communicate, right? And it was high-grade communication. The highest form of communication is face-to-face. Face-to-face. So a smartphone is arguably a step backwards. Now, obviously, you can do things that you can't do face-to-face. I get it, right? But at a fundamental level, a smartphone, a dumb phone, a whatever phone is a communication device. Could human beings communicate prior to smartphones? Yes. Nothing fundamentally has changed. And you can run that argument for anything, okay? Nothing fundamental. Has it solved the problem of life and death, mortality? Nope. Big problem. Big problem. Cannot solve it. Technology will never solve that problem. Only God can solve that problem. Focus on the outcomes and you can see what Solomon's talking about. Focus on the how it occurs and you can get hoodwinked into thinking, oh wow, this is a big change. You open the packet for your new iPhone 17 at some point. And you get a dopamine rush and this is going to, it's got the new, let me guess, what would it have, Dan? AI enhanced, how many cameras has the 16 got? 3? Yeah, 8 cameras, like a boom, 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 like a fly. So what? It's not dopamine hit comes, goes, and your life is still basically the same. So that is why you might think he's wrong, but he's not. Another way of testing this issue of, is he just exaggerating, nothing's new, like really? Best way to debunk it, I think, is look at the advertising industry, right? Very clever, very clever. How often does the advertising industry use this hook, okay, to great effect? The all new Toyota Prado 2026. Now with AI, I bet it'll say, with AI and 8 cameras, right? Like a fly. So the marketers are smart. Their advertisers are smart. They understand human psychology very well. But Solomon says, I call you bluff, marketers. There is nothing new. There is nothing new. And the best way to look at this is just look at old ads. Woo! Hold the future in your hand with Sony. Who wants one of those? Who wants one of those babies? Not me. The Tandy 3000 HL, high speed, high power, high resolution, high class. High class. Okay, so you invite someone around your house after Pinjarra 2025, say, look at my high class. They think you're crazy. Like, it's an old box. Okay, so is that really going to change the world? Did it change the world? Not fundamentally. Not fundamentally. It's embarrassing. And then, of course, the beauty industry. Oh, yeah. Thrillingly new. Try Palmolive's famous beauty lather for something thrillingly new. Wow. New fragrance, ladies. new charm, new allure. How many, hands up, who used Palmolive, whatever it is, beauty lather, who used that last night? Yeah? So this is why you have no fragrance, no charm, no allure, because you didn't use that product. Okay. So there you have it. Marketers are the best at using the hook, and when you look back 50, 30, 20, it's like, oh, wow, that's a bit of a scam, right? Because there is nothing new under the sun. It will not really change your life. This is, yeah, I mean, just another example of this. It's just funny, isn't it? Like, you see, I'm not here to pay out females, but it is funny, you know, the straight-haired female gets the curling wand, the curly-hair female gets the straightener. I mean, maybe some males do it too, not me. But you think, this is like, this desire for something new. I just want curly hair, because I see that lady with curly hair, she's so beautiful, I don't have curly hair. And then that lady's looking at you going, oh, I just wish I had straight hair like that. And then this is even better. So you go to India and you will see billboards for skin lightening cream, okay? Skin lightening cream, because they've got this beautiful dark skin, but they want to bleach it because they don't want to have dark skin. And then you go to Melbourne, where it's freezing and overcast, and there's women walking around everywhere with orange, with these magnificent tans in the middle of, you know, July in Melbourne, because they've all spent a couple of $100 on a fake tan, because they want to have dark skin, right? So this is the vanity. These are trivial examples. I don't want to trivialise this issue, but you know, it's just I think we just like something new. We're not necessarily naturally content with what we've got. There is no remembrance of former things. So this is the piece where he says, no one will care, okay? No one will care. Alexander Fleming, magnificent scientist, discovered penicillin, massive benefits, saved millions. How many folks here in the last, say, day, 2 month, have given credit to Alexander Fleming and sort of around the dinner table said, oh, I'm just so grateful that Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin. See how ungrateful you are? So he's right. Jim Steins, Brownlow medal winner, I forget, 91 maybe, okay? Apparently quite a good man, like a man of good character, but he got very ill in, I think, 2010, 11, 12, and he passed away. Right? So he was the greatest AFL player of that year, very well regarded individual, and just like that, it's over. And again, how many people really care about who won the Brownlow in any year? Apart from maybe last year, maybe a couple of years. But you go 20, 30, 40 years, who cares? Who cares who was the MVP in the NBA in 1973? Hands up. Who wants to swap places with that person? They're probably in a box. So nobody cares about your life-changing, world-changing thing. It sounds cynical, but there's truth to it. There is truth to it. Okay? So this is the problem of the theory of happiness through newness. It doesn't work. Theory number 2. If I max out on wisdom and knowledge, now that, and maybe that newness thing didn't work, sure, but this will work, right? This will work. There's nothing like, and there is logic to this, right? There's nothing like, you build a certain level of knowledge and understanding and wisdom. There are benefits. Undoubtedly, there are benefits. So he says, I thought I'd max out on that, and that would bring me deep satisfaction. Okay. So you got an ad there for a uni. I'm not paying out uni or whatever. I'm just making the point that often, again, marketing, right? Programs that will bring you to the power to change your life. So the marketers are always clever. Right? So what is the bait, right? The bait is come to our university, pay us whatever, 50, 100 grand for a degree, and you will change your life. And maybe on one level you will, but on a fundamental level you will not. You will not find deep satisfaction from a degree or a trade or anything like that. That's not where deep satisfaction comes from in life. He's going to tell us where satisfaction comes from later, but it doesn't come from that. It doesn't come from that piece of paper. So he says, be careful of that. But as with the other theory, he had a go at this one as well. I applied my heart to seek and to search out by wisdom, chapter 1 and verse 13, where he says, I gave my heart to seek and search out by wisdom concerning all things that are done under heaven. This sore travail God has given to the sons of man to be exercised therewith. Jump to verse 16. I communed with my own heart, saying, Lo, I am come to great estate and gotten more wisdom. So he pulled it off, he did it. And we know Solomon was intensely wise. Even in the secular world, that is known. The book of Proverbs is a known book. More than all they that have been before me in Jerusalem. Yea, my heart had great experience of wisdom and of knowledge. Okay? So he became very, very successful in this sense. He was very, very clever, very well studied, and he literally wrote the book. He wrote the book of Proverbs. Okay? It is an incredible book. Even if you read, I'm not suggesting you do or don't, I suppose, you read leadership textbooks, the best of the best leadership textbooks that exist in society, other books around how to win friends and influence people, some of these books, absolute landmark books. I will challenge you to find anything of value in any of those books that is not in the book of Proverbs at a fundamental level. It's all there. Best leadership textbook in the world, the book of Proverbs. 2,500 years before Dale Carnegie was even born. That is the wisdom of Solomon, right? So he wrote the book, but it didn't work, okay? Why did it not work? Multiple reasons. Again, one reason he says is, I did it. It was to me an enabler. As I said, the theories are all related. It was an enabler to bring about massive change in the world, positive change. He had good intentions. But he said, unfortunately, the problems of this world, the fundamental problems of this world, are unresolvable by inference without the overlay of God. Okay, and that it frustrated him. It made him sad because he put so much effort in with so much good intent, and he ended up feeling empty and gutted by the fact he did not actually save the whole world. He did not overcome the fundamental issues with life. So you look at chapter 1, verse 14. I've seen all the works that are done under the sun, and behold, all is vanity and vexation of spirit. That which is crooked, this is the issue, that which is crooked cannot be made straight. That which is wanting cannot be numbered. There are too many problems. You cannot count them all. There are too many things in this world that are bent, right? Mortality has to be top of that list. This world is kind of broken, right? He said, I couldn't fix any of that. Right? This frustrated him. And then there's this irony, just to rub salt in the wound. He found the more knowledgeable and wise he became, the more acutely aware he became of the problems of the world. And that depressed him even more. That in a way, he's like, I was better off before because I didn't really understand how unresolvable and broken this world's problems are. Okay, so he says, verse 17, 1:17, I gave my heart to know wisdom. To know madness and folly, I perceive that this also is vexation of spirit. For in much wisdom is much grief, and he that increases knowledge increases sorrow. So obviously it sounds quite cynical, but there is an element of truth to it. This is how he felt. He just looked back and said, well, what was the point of all that? Because now I'm just even more acutely aware of how messed up this world is. And where to from here? Where does he go from there? Because bear in mind, as he went through this process, he started to distance himself from God accidentally, but he did. Issue number 3, I've already mentioned this. The most fundamental, broken issue with this world is mortality. Okay? Mortality. That is the real problem with this world. And he could not resolve it. Now, he does mention here, he does this a few times in the book. It's like a caveat, chapter 2:13. He says, look, don't think I'm saying wisdom is complete, is a write-off. So he makes that clear, verse 13. I saw that wisdom excels folly as far as light exceeds darkness. So he's saying, look, I'm not saying just flush your mind of any knowledge or wisdom. No, in fact, he goes on later to extol the virtues of godly wisdom. So he's saying, it's okay. But he says, don't think it's going to completely transform the planet or make you super happy, because it will not. It does not work. He tried it, he thought it might, and it did not. It left him feeling empty. So 2 verse 14 to 15 on the back of that caveat in verse 13. The wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness, and I myself perceive also that one event happens to all. So he said, wisdom's good, but when push comes to shove, the fool who doesn't invest in wisdom and the wise person who does, same fate, they're going to die. Then said, how's that fair? Then said I in my heart, as it happens to the fool, so it happens even to me. And why was I then more wise? So why did I bother investing all that wisdom? I just end up the same as the guy who did nothing, it was a fool, essentially. This also is vanity. So this is an observation on this world. He said, why did I do all that? Because it didn't actually achieve that much. And just the lucky last barb in the tail, he says, even though I did all these great things on the back of my wisdom, accumulate wealth, whatever, I then just handed on to my potentially, not necessarily, but potentially undeserving kids. And in his case, of course, he did have an undeserving kid, Rehoboam, really not a great individual. There you go, there's your, whatever it was, $100 billion or whatever he had to pass on to Rehoboam. Rehoboam didn't really use that wisely, did he? So this frustrated him as well, which again is related to the issue of mortality. He departs, hands everything over to this individual who was not great, Rehoboam. I hated my labour for which I had taken under the sun, because I should leave it unto the man that shall come after me. And who knows whether he be a wise man or a fool? Who knows? Who knows if Solomon's child would be a wise man or a fool? It's like a rhetorical question, yeah? He knew. He knew what he had. Yet shall he have rule over all my labour wherein I have laboured, and wherein I have showed myself wise under the sun. This also is vanity. Therefore I went about to cause my heart to despair of all the labour which I took under the sun. For there is a man whose labour is in wisdom and in knowledge and in equity. This is him. Yet to a man that he has not laboured, therein shall he leave it for his portion. This also is a vanity and a great evil. And this frustrated Solomon. All that effort, all that success, nothing. No satisfaction, no lasting depth to it. And this also frustrated him. Which brings us to lucky last, happiness theory number 3. I'm just going to be successful, right? In the broadest sense that this world would define it. I'm just going to be so successful. Okay. If I succeed, surely somewhere amongst all that, I'm going to find satisfaction. How could that not be true? And this is where we get this language, particularly as we come to this theory in chapter 2, we start to get this theory of experimentation. You might hear this sort of process of chapters 1 and 2 likened to a experiment, right? No, I don't think it's an experiment in the pure sense, like he was sort of going into a lab and I'll try this and see what happens. I don't think it was a pure experiment. I think he was actually trying to enjoy life and genuinely trying to figure out what would satisfy him, but there is this tone of experimentation to it. Where do we get that from? Well, you've got to look at a couple of different translations, but I'll take the ESV, for example, in this case. I think it's quite good. Chapter 2, verse 1. Let's have a look at that. So I'll read the King James, then we'll look. I'm sure some people have got an ESV. I said in my heart, go now, I'll prove thee with mirth. So that's humour. Therefore enjoy pleasure, and behold, this also is vanity, right? So in the ESV, come now, I will test you. That's probably the key word. I will test you with pleasure. Enjoy yourself. So he is going to test things out. This is the language of experimentation. And this is the sting in the tail. This is where you pay attention. Because he explicitly is going to make the point, as he embarked on this experimentation phase, okay, he wasn't an idiot, right? He was no fool. He understood there was risks, there was boundaries, there was limits. He knew all that. And he was intending to leverage the wisdom, the massive amounts of wisdom he had, to ensure that he did not go too far, right? He was not stupid. The ISV, Ecclesiastes 2 verse 3, I'll read it from King James and we'll go back to that. I sought in my heart to give myself to wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom, so there's the piece around wisdom, and to lay hold on folly that I might see what was good for the sons of men. ISV, I tried to indulge in foolishness just enough, this far and no further, just enough, okay? He's not stupid to determine whether it was good for human beings under the sun given the short time of their lives. This is the language of experimentation. And this is informed, he thought, wise experimentation. Just another rendering I think it gives a different sense, and I think it's an accurate sense. LEB, I explored the effects, so it's this language of exploration, the effects of indulging my flesh with wine, my mind also guiding me with wisdom. I investigated folly that I might discover what is good, okay? So he is on an investigative journey, and he is out to discover what it is that makes people happy. What will yield satisfaction for you as an individual. But all the while, as he thought, I'm going to keep my wisdom, I'm going to keep my wisdom, I'm going to keep my wisdom, and he did keep his wisdom in a sense, he's just dancing on the edge of the cliff, right? Just like, you might have wondered why I have a photo of some people dancing on the edge of a cliff. That is why. Because this is what happens when we have all this wisdom, we've been to all these Bible schools and done our readings and all this sort of jazz, and we just start to flirt with sin and just push it a little bit in the spirit of, say, 1 Corinthians 10, the conscience issues section. Just be careful, be careful. Yes, it may not be a sin, conscience, all that sort of thing, but be careful, right? These are all kind of conscience issues that he started to play around with, that the idols aren't even mentioned. But good news, good news, good news. It actually did work. So you come to chapter 2, verse 10. Whatever my eyes desired, I kept not from them. He was deeply successful. I withheld not my heart from any joy, for my heart rejoiced in all my labour, and this was my portion of all my labour, okay? So he had it all, he enjoyed it all, and it was magnificent, magnificent. So what did he enjoy? Well, he tells you what he enjoyed. Good comedy, good humour, right? He would have had the best comedians. There are some very funny people, right? Chris Poole is quite fun. Wining and dining, yep. Construction, great works, horticulture, executive leadership. He was the ultra CEO, right? He was the greatest CEO who ever existed, you could argue. He ran a massive organisation. Farming success, obviously massive financial success. The arts, intimacy, relationships. What did he not max out? What did he not succeed in? What did he not enjoy? Nothing. Everything. Ticked every box. Magnificently successful man. And he enjoyed it, as you would. But oh dear. Verse 11. Then I looked on all the works my hands had wrought, on the labour that I laboured to do, and behold, all was vanity and vexation of spirit, and there was no profit under the sun. So yes, it worked. And then he steps back, maybe as he moves into his twilight years, and he just sort of puts his face in his hands, says, "What have I done? Why does this not feel good? Why do I not feel satisfied? Why do I feel sad? This doesn't make sense. I did it all, and I was really good at it. What has gone wrong at this point in his life?" He has ruined his life doing just normal things that you and I do. Relationships, bit of money, it's okay. But the shades of grey can kill us. The shades of grey can kill us, brothers and sisters. That's what Paul's warning about in 1 Corinthians 10. Be careful of the shades of grey. Be careful as you dance on the edge of the cliff. Because sometimes when I dance on the edge of the cliff, and maybe when you dance on the edge of the cliff, I find myself on the other side, at the wrong side of that cliff. And that is when we sin. But the million-dollar question is, you read chapter 2 carefully, and this idea is in the rest of the book. How on earth can he emphasises this, how can he be so wise and yet end up like that? right? That's kind of scary. And if you don't think he retained wisdom, I can assure you he did retain wisdom, okay? He built wisdom through the process. And you can read this as worldly wisdom, so-called, and I don't doubt he did get a lot of that, you know. He knew how to construct things, right? That's not scriptural wisdom per se, but there are scriptural principles that can inform that, like any activity. But he did become wiser. I think scriptural wisdom, godly wisdom, he did build that throughout. He did not lose it. He tells you that. He wants you to know that, right? In case you think he forgot, he said, I didn't forget. Don't think that's the case. I sought in my heart, 2 verse 3, I sought in my heart to give myself to wine, yet acquainting my heart with wisdom. There he is. Still had the wisdom, still built it, and to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good for the sons of men which they sought. Okay? That's 2 verse 3, 2 verse 9. So I was great and increased more than all that were before me in Jerusalem. Also my wisdom remained with me. He could not be any clearer, okay? He could not be any clearer. A different way of proving it. You look at 1 Corinthians, I don't know where that came from. 1 Kings chapter 10, probably because I've been talking about 1 Corinthians 10, I guess. 1 Kings 10, verse 6. Now, 1 Kings 10, we will, at a Sunday school level, we will put that forward as, wow, look at the magnificence of Solomon and his, the Queen of Sheba comes, all that sort of stuff. And it is certainly, Solomon is, I think, certainly the strongest type of Christ in the kingdom we have in the Bible, deliberately. I mean, look at Psalm 72, it's extraordinary. But that's fine. That type is there and it's important. But if you study the life of Solomon, I can assure you, under the hood, in 1 Kings 10, he was in trouble. He was in deep trouble. And he looks so good. You look at 7, 8 and 9, and you can build a very strong case to say he was in deep trouble. Right. Was he into the idols yet? Probably not. But he was. The cracks were there under the hood. Just look at the focus he put on the construction of the palace that dwarfed the temple. Red alert. Red alert. Look at chapter 9 carefully of 1 Kings, and you look for spiritual activity in that chapter, and you will find one verse, right, from about verse 10 to the end. And at the end, he's an arms dealer. He's a weapons dealer, right, selling to the highest bidder, to the enemies of God, Hittites. He was in trouble. But look at the record. Look at the impression he gave. She said to the king, "It was a true report that I heard in my own lands, thy acts and of thy wisdom." Repeatedly, his wisdom in chapter 10 is very clear. He was extremely wise, and you couldn't miss it. He was magnificent. And yet, he says in Ecclesiastes, despite all that, he just couldn't really bottom out the depth of understanding, or something about his wisdom was faulty, because he couldn't actually tackle the things that ended up toppling him. Top of that list, women. Women. So you look at chapter 7, verse 23. This was his Achilles heel. And this, of course, is how the idols came into his life. 7:23. All this I've proved by wisdom. The wisdom that he didn't lose through the process. I said, I will be wise. But it was far from me. How? That which is far off and exceeding deep, who can find it? And then he goes on to link that to the women issues. I couldn't really get my head around women in the end. I was so wise. I understood the principle of monogamy. I wrote about it in Proverbs, actually. And I couldn't just get it to work. Women destroyed me, even though I knew monogamy is the only way. What is the simple lesson you can draw from this? It is so simple. It is so simple. The simple conclusion I take from this is that wisdom doesn't work very well if we don't use it. That's it. You can go to Pinjarra Bible School. You can go and watch all the repeats, whatever, all the previous ones. You can go to Glenlock, Rathmines, Special Efforts. But if you do not actually do what is being shown to you, you have a great session around the table doing the readings with the family. You sit there and, that's a great point. That's a great point. Mark it in. But if you do not have the discipline and the wherewithal to actually do it, like Solomon, it's over, right? Wisdom not followed doesn't work. It's such a simple lesson, you can just miss the whole thing. Use it or lose it. Use it or lose it. Use the wisdom or lose it. Not necessarily true. Solomon retained his wisdom, okay? I don't believe it was just worldly wisdom he retained. I believe he retained spiritual wisdom. I don't think you can make a differentiation. In the context of the book, it is wisdom. But you've got to use it. You have got to use it. Otherwise, we will find ourselves potentially on the wrong side of sin and on the wrong side of God. So, look at the package, right? As I said, it's broadly one big experiment. I've split it in three just to digest it, but it is really one interwoven, massive, multi-decade, multi-billion-dollar experiment. And what did Solomon conclude? He concluded that you can colonise Mars. It will not fundamentally fix the issues of this world. It will not fundamentally make you happy. Okay, so just be careful thinking you're going to set the world on fire and save the whales, as we like to say. It won't work. Okay? Is it wrong to seek change in such a broken world? No. But what is the change that we are looking for? We are looking for the kingdom of God. God will fix this world. The Lord Jesus Christ will fix this world, right? If this world was wonderful, if we could fix this world, we don't need the kingdom because we've got the kingdom, right? But we're not going to get the kingdom, this side of the kingdom. So don't spend inordinate amounts of energy trying to fix a world that God has no intention of fixing until his son returns. I'm not saying be defeatist. I'm not saying just be negative and deconstructive. I'm not saying that. But just understand there are limitations to how much we can transform this world. And the value proposition for that is not as high as perhaps Elon Musk thinks it is, because he is an atheist and we are not. Maxing out on wisdom, knowledge, etc. So it didn't work. You can get a lot done with that. It's excellent on one level, but it will not fundamentally fix the world. And then finally, just living a very rich, full, successful life like Jeff Bezos. Will that make it? Will he die super happy? Very doubtful, right? Will he be here in 100 years to enjoy? Not that likely. You want to swap? Who wants to be Jeff Bezos in 100 years? I would never swap positions with Jeff Bezos. If I could be any of you or him, right now, next year, in 100 years, I would never, ever want to step into their shoes if I could have you as an alternative, right? Just think about that. Think about how many people would look at these men. Wow, if only I had a couple $100 billion. Imagine how good my life would be. You would be an utter fool to want to swap positions with anyone in this room and one of those two men, okay? Because we have been shown a better way. By God's grace, we've been shown the gospel. We are looking to the kingdom, and we are looking to the kind of success that comes from an association with Christ, brothers and sisters, okay? This is Solomon begging us to listen to what he has to say about these theories that the world's going to make you happy with this, that, and the other, dangling carrots, dangling bait, especially to young people, right? This bait is custom designed for you. Are you going to rise above it? Or are you going to fall for it? He is begging every single one of us to not fall for it and to rise above it and look to the kingdom. That, brothers and sisters, is Solomon's theories of happiness, and that is something for us to think about as we head out of here now. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Brother Tim. So we're now singing a closing hymn, followed by prayer. And the hymn will be 141. Loving Almighty Father, thank you for this time that we've had to consider the absolute, utter vanity of the things of this world, to give us hope that there is something beyond this emptiness, to inspire us that you have a plan and purpose with this world, to remember that true wisdom is following your precepts in the Bible and fleeing from those sinful natures that keep us in this mortal body that we all hold. So help us to remember your Son and remember that we have a life eternal to look forward to escape this body of death. And so we ask this prayer now, in and through the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, the only way possible. Amen. Announcements? Yep, cool.
All right. We won't talk for long. I've met Chris Poole. He's not that funny. Just to put that straight. We do have a Josie's 18 today, so happy birthday, Josie. She'd love 18 punches. She would love birthday cards, even flowers and love letters from boys. All right, for the rest of the day, people, we do have lunch in our homes. We do have the lolly shop open today from 1:30 to 2:30. And 3 p.m. we've got the sports afternoon for all ages. And just meet at the Oval. Has it? Okay, it doesn't say that here, but I'll believe you. So meet at the gym, please, 3 p.m, all ages. So tonight we've got the long-awaited smell of pulled beef that I've smelt for the last 2 weeks in our household. So 5:30 is the communal meal, and that is in the lawn area outside the clubhouse, so all welcome. And then tonight, 7 p.m, back here in the main hall, and our brother Dan is doing What I Say Unto You, I Say Unto You All, watch. Okay, now for the night session, the Friday night session, Brother Havel's the chairman, Sister Noel Higgs is the organist, and we already know Dan's doing the speaking, so thank you, Dan. So that's 7 o'clock tonight. 8:30 supper, and then the teen meditation at 10 p.m. And they are to meet at Scratton. Now, although there's a table at the back of the hall, with a lot of books on it, they are for sale at the rear. And our sister Karen Ketter has said you just pay by EFT, phone, anyway, electronically, and just message her what you bought so she knows it's been taken. Anything else I need to say? I think that's all just for the rest of the day's activities. Enjoy your afternoon, and we'll see you at dinner. Thank you.